away. Hillary Clinton's got a battle on her hands, no question. Joining us now from Richmond, State Senator, Republican from the Fredericksburg, Stafford area, Bryce Reeves. Senator, good to have you with us, man.
Hey, good morning. It's nice, balmy. I think going to be about 62 here. So as you guys enjoy that Iowa weather, just know we're feeling pretty good out here in Virginia today.
I heard you're having a good day. I opened the window up today when I went to get downstairs to get on the air, and all I saw outside was white stuff. I think they call that snow here, right, Heather? So pretty frigid day. So we got to figure out how we're going to get out of here. We might be stuck here for a couple of days.
I was laughing because when I went to pick up the car yesterday, they were joking with me, and they said, let's check for damage, maybe bullet holes or something. And then the guy looked at me and goes, if there's any bullet hole in this car, it's because it got in the way of the deer. And I just laughed.
That's probably got in the way of the deer last night. Senator, now we're going to get into guns. Last night, Heather was going to the Cruz media event. I went to the Trump one. Trump has the Secret Service detail. So we had gotten there just behind the Trump Armada that pulled into the hotel with his family on it, and, of course, all the police and everything. So Heather just pulled up to drop me off, right? Just drop me off in front of the hotel. This is a hotel where it was a Sheraton.
A big Sheraton with an overhang.
And I guess the police didn't want her to do that. So they surrounded her car and put their hands on their weapons. It's like, I'm just trying to drop this guy off here. Put your gun away. So Heather hopefully pulled off last night without incident. But
well, John, I can understand them having taken a defensive posture with you, but Heather, I don't know. But you definitely.
I really couldn't figure that out. They're like drawing their weapons against Heather
would
Cordasco.
agree with me, I'm sure.
Absolutely. It was a Hyundai. The car was a Hyundai, so it was definitely not an intimidating SUV.
I know it was a little itty-bitty from Enterprise, right? It was a little Hyundai.
Yeah.
I'm a pretty big guy. I could just about fit in the thing.
It's not the car, it's the occupant, I can tell you. Absolutely.
They're taking out their weapons. I'm like, don't shoot. Right? I'm just going to the rally. All right. Senator Reeves, speaking of guns, major compromise coming out. Governor McAuliffe announcing it on Friday. We had him on our show yesterday. I look at this, Senator, and I think what you guys have done is a marvelous compromise where there's a lot of winners. And look, there's people upset on both extremes. But as I've said, Senator, we are existing in Virginia in a divided government. And so there's got to be some compromise. I think the deal that was made on the surface makes a lot of sense. And both sides got something in order to make this happen. I know you're the sponsor of the actual legislation. Can you walk our audience through, Senator, exactly how this works, what it is?
Yeah, sure. So several weeks ago, we were trying to figure out, do we continue, or at least I got, Carico, the Suiterline, and Chase all had bills. I know Dick Black had a bill, and Garrett still has some bills. And everybody was kind of taking a defensive posture, as we kind of talked about earlier, knowing the ultimate result would be that the governor's going to veto everything. And so several weeks ago, I came to the conclusion that, listen, I think there might be a pathway forward, and started to work on trying to figure out if there was any middle ground through back channels. And you've had Senator Peterson on your show, and Chap and I work very well together on issues that we can find consensus. So I went to Chap. He's a damn smart attorney, and I said, Chap, can we get there? So he signed on. We got on my bill, then we got Linwood Lewis to sign on and John Edwards to sign on. So three prominent Democrats in the Senate on the other side of the aisle said, hey, if we sign on, we'll take a beating, but, go do your magic. And so for the last several weeks, all I've done is negotiate a deal between the governor's office and the rest of the bodies, and we kept it very tight and close to the chest for that reason that the two sides on the fringes are pretty upset with us. and rightfully so. But the reality is, if it would have leaked out that we were actually even talking about these things, trying to find middle ground, I don't think we would be where we are today. And, we're still we've crossed the Rubicon, as I like to say, in what we said in the press release, but we're not at the summit of the mountain. We've got a ways to go, and the devil's in the details. So, but all in all, you're absolutely correct. I think it's what we've done in Senate Bill 610. What it does is it restores reciprocity to 421,000 Virginians, law-abiding Virginians, and that was my goal, and that's what we've accomplished thus far, at least with the stay of execution. Now, we still have to get the bill through. We have some other things that we've got to do, and we're continuing to work on those in a bipartisan way. And there are some, I firmly believe, that are trying to throw this thing off the tracks. But I think by and large, if you saw who was at the press conference, who's all involved in it, we've got some good people trying to do the right thing and shelve it. And we look at, you really think about it. And I don't know what the governor said because I didn't listen to your show, and I apologize. But I can just tell you, you've got a very political governor, and no one would, in their right mind, would have ever thought we could have got to middle ground on an issue that's so volatile with this governor and the Republicans that we have in Virginia. But yet we got there, and so what that tells me is that Congress needs to get their act together. And they need to start working for the good of the people, because if we can do it in Virginia and we can find that Virginia way, that middle ground, then by God, the people north of the Potomac got to get to work, because we're doing it in Virginia on issues that are like this. And so I would just encourage my brother north to get it done.
Not to put you on the spot at all, but we did get a phone call yesterday from a gentleman who unfortunately went through a very bad marital situation, and the way that his wife got the kids was to get a restraining order against him, and he didn't really have anything to say about that. It was found to be unfounded, but it did take a while, and he was questioning what's the difference between a permanent and a temporary. Do you have that in your wheelhouse? Can you explain that, or is that too much in the weeds?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Anybody can go out and get a temporary protective order. They last 72 hours, and there's just to bring you up to the right nomenclature, they quit calling them restraining orders a long time ago. They're all called protective orders. So that's called an emergency protective order. Last 72 hours. What the way this bill would apply is on a permanent protective order, where you've had the opportunity to have counsel. So you've got an attorney assigned to you. You're going for the judge. You've had due process, and you're convicted of a, and this is narrowly defined, has to do with domestic assault. So you've been adjudicated and you've gone through the process. Those permanent protective orders last 10 years. And then upon that ruling of the judge, the 24 hours doesn't kick in until you're actually served. So if that court case was on Friday, but you weren't in court, your attorney was, and they got to serve you with the process, the sheriff comes up, maybe catches you at work on Monday, then you have 24 hours upon that notice in which to relinquish your firearms, sell them, give them to somebody else, but get them out of your care, custody, and control. And so, there's a big difference between that. On an EPO, there's not a lot of due process. You're not allowed to have an attorney. It's a he said, she said, Jerry Springer thing, and we weren't going to go that far.
No, look, for a judge to sign a permanent protective order or restrictive order, whatever you want to say the words are now, like you say, this is not something a judge takes lightly, and the person who is required not to be within a certain distance of someone else, like you said, they've had representation. So it doesn't, to say, well, that person shouldn't be restricted from having a weapon or concealed weapon. Obviously, a judge thought something was going on that the other person had to be protected. So I think this is a fair compromise. I would debate anybody who wants to come on my show and say that is anti-gun or it's people are trying to take your guns. Look, you got a permanent protective order. You got it because something's going on that's bad. Therefore, you're going to be restricted to have a weapon. I think that makes total sense. I'd say the other thing that I think in this compromise, Senator, that was brilliantly done. We have talked about the gun show loophole ad nauseum, on and on and on forever. I think the compromise you made, which is there's a gun show in Virginia, you have state police there, and then the background check is optional, right? So if I'm a family member and I've got a collection of firearms and I go to the gun show and I want to just sell them and I go there, I can then make a decision by myself whether or not I want to have the buyer go through a background check. Now, if I'm responsible and if I was selling it, I would probably, that's just me, take that option. But it's not mandatory. It's optional. How much more fairer can something be if it's optional?
No, John, you're absolutely correct. And I think if you remember the show we did with Marston on guns, and we had BCDL and all that, that's where the genesis of that idea came from after your radio show. And we kind of talked, and that's where I came up with that aspect of brokering that deal. Because it's a three-part deal. I can tell you this was not easy. And, my counterpart on the other side was Secretary Moran, who I've gotten to know and who I think is a phenomenal individual who's trying to do the right thing as well. And it's a win-win for everyone. And back to the protective order, I was a police officer for a number of years.
Right.
And I used to tell people on domestics, I said, guns and paring knives, the things you cut apples with, scare me to death, because typically those, when you enter into a domestic situation, you're at the height of the argument, and no one can turn your screws more than your significant other. And, it's reasonable, it's prudent, it's good legislation, and if you're a law-abiding gun carrier, why would you want anything but that? And same with voluntary. I would question whether or not if somebody was unwilling, if I said, hey, you want to buy my 1862 musket, and they were like, nah, I don't really want to do a background check. Well, I'm the guy who wants to make sure I'm not putting a good gun in a bad guy's hands, so I'm not, I'm probably not going to sell it to him. But we didn't have the option before, and now we have the option. I think it does help us in a positive light.
And Senator Reeves, I don't even know if you know this, but my husband was a police officer for a while. And he said that there was just nothing more difficult than those domestic situations, and that there really was no winning in them, because sometimes that you'd get a call for help, you'd try to help, and then you'd get turned on by the person who called for help. So it's a challenging
90%
situation.
of the time that happens. Yeah.
Look, Senator, I got to give credit where it's due. I think this was brilliantly conceived, brilliantly done. I give a lot of credit to Governor McAuliffe also, and he had to have some kahunas in order to stand up to his progressive base, who's not happy with this. But look, the far right's not happy with it either. And this is the way I look at it. When I've got a deal being made and both extremes are mad as hornets, that's probably a good thing. All right? That means there's no winners. Right? And look, for anybody to be claiming victory on any side, the victory is for the people of Virginia, because we got rid of the revocation of reciprocity on concealed weapons. Now, here's my question. Attorney General Herring, there's some people that say, well, Herring is not really on the same team as the governor with this, and he still has some authority in whether to rescind it or not. Where is the Attorney General in this negotiation?
Well, I think the Attorney General had some input, not necessarily to me directly or to Republicans from the House nor the Senate. But let me just say this, is that we have, and I think I mentioned it the other morning when you guys were on, working through an enactment clause, trying to finalize the language on that, on my bill. It's on second reading now. We'll get that put on there. The administration's agreed to that. We have a shall in the language, but some of my colleagues wanted a little more teeth to force the Attorney General into those agreements, even though shall is a pretty strong word. So, this is the details that I'm talking about, and now the attorneys are kind of getting involved. They're a lot smarter than me. But let me just say this. What goes around comes around. At some point, we're going to have a Republican Attorney General. And, do we want to tie their hands as well? And then the last thing I would say is, I understand where a lot of my base is with the Attorney General. He denied representing Virginia in the marriage amendment, and now this. And what I would tell people is we got to ratchet it down a little bit and get back to good governance. And this is good governance. And I know that my counterparts on the other side of the aisle are getting the tar beat out of them by Bloomberg and Anytown and those folks. And we're lucky enough that we included the NRA and BCDL in our discussions, and they're in support of it, and we've got to get through the details. But by and large, their membership, their folks are happy with it as well. Because look, we're tired of the political points and the grenades going back and forth about gun show loopholes and all that thing. And the reality is, good gun owners don't want bad people having guns either. It does us no good. We're tired of the arguments. Let's try to reach middle ground and fix it. And we're doing it. I mean, we're absolutely going to get it done. And if we can do it in Virginia, then there's room in other states.
Well, you also have to give credit to Senator David Marston, Northern Virginia Democrat, who put together that radio show that we had in your hometown of Fredericksburg in December, where he got the NRA, got the VCDL. We all know where Marston's position is. You were there, Senator, and obviously that was the genesis for this compromise to happen. So I'm about out of time, but I still didn't get a clear answer from my question earlier. Attorney General Herring, what if he says, you know what, you guys can go do all the compromises you want and pass whatever you please. I'm the Attorney General, and I say, I'm not going to rescind it. Have a good day. I'll see you in 2017. What happens?
Well, we built language into my bill that's coming onto the floor that'll prevent him from being able to do that.
So he's not going to be happy.
Simple. Well, he's not happy right now, I'm sure, but that's really, John. That's not for me to have to work through. That's for my counterparts on the other side and the governor. And the governor said it. He'll continue to say it, and rightfully so. That he's here to govern and not make political points. And so they are taking a whooping on their side, and God bless them for doing it, because they've made progress, and no other Democrat governor has done that. And so I do give some kudos to the governor for stepping up and doing the right thing. And so, it's going to be pretty tough to reverse what we've done, especially when you have a bipartisan group of legislators, to include the Speaker, the Majority Leader from the House, myself, Senator Chase, Senator Vogel, Senator Howell, a good swath cut across of both bodies standing there saying, hey, we want to get this done. And so, I think that's where we are, and maybe you can give Marston a call and see if we can get him on to vote for the bills.
All right, we're gonna see what we can do. Great compromise, great job, and Senator Bryce Reeves in his bill putting apparently language in there that cuts Mark Herring out of the process. A bold move. We're out of time.
No.
7:58.
Keeps him in the keeps him in the process, but doesn't give him that much leeway that he can screw it up.
I interpret that as he's out. Thank you, Senator, for making that clarification. I mean, look, he's either going to rescind it, or he's either going to go along with it or not. And so if he doesn't have the power,
there, John, because there's some states that require an agreement with the Attorney General specifically. So we're just trying to mandate that we make the decision for him. But we've got to
all right,
include
we'll
him.
see.
So.
I'm out of time. We'll see how it plays out.